JoJo's Bizarre Adventures is one of my favorite fictional works ever and my favorite anime and manga series of all time. Let's start by analyzing the name of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. JoJo is the nickname given to the main characters of the series. Part by part, they have their name in a way or another related to the letters of JoJo. And of course, the story is about a grand generational saga of adventures of those characters, so we understand the adventures part on it as well. But what about the bizarre aspect of the series? Hello, it's your boy, back to talk about bizarre stuff in JoJo. This video was heavily inspired by Alex Enterprises' JoJo video, where he went off and he explained what he feels about the series and how he portrays the series in a unique opinion and a good video in overall, so make sure to check that out when you have the time to. I will use this video to talk about the aspect of bizarreness in JoJo, or more in a straightforward kind of approach, and will be cut in three general parts. Part 1 when I talk about the manga and the original work of Hirohiko Araki, Part 2 when I talk about the Stardust Crusaders OVA, and Part 3 when I talk about the David production adaptation. I think before we start we need to know the word bizarre and what it means. Well, with a quick Google search you can see a simple definition of the word, and it goes like very strange or unusual, especially in the striking or shocking way. I think keeping in mind that, we can start this video. Shonen Jump is a weird place. I am sure a lot of people can agree on that. Series are published and they get cancelled every day or so. That comes because of the big competition between series, and in the time that JoJo started, the main thing that were big on Shonen Jump was fighting manga that used the same kind of format and pretty much everything was the same. JoJo was there showing as something different but inspired by them at the same time. What makes Phantom Blood special compared to everything at the time is the bizarre aspect, if anything. Standalone, JoJo Part 1 is a mix between the Dracula and Fist of the North Star with the crazy ass writing. And that start to the series, the bizarre aspect of Part 1 is there, and in this way kind of finds to give a story, but I still feel crazy about it. Still, I am sure I can say that compared to every single manga that was running at the time, JoJo Part 1 Phantom Blood was the most bizarre of its kind. But compared to what's about to come, the bizarreness is just okay in Part 1. We go to Part 2, where everyone from the main protagonist is written to do crazy stuff, and I think that setting of the part itself works better in a way to be more bizarre. Araki uses things that are taken seriously in the part to make it bizarre, like Stronheim, who for me is my favorite Part 2 character, and the Pillar Man, from the way they are designed to the way they act and fight, are quite unusual for the final boss perspective, but they put them throughout Part 2, and they work because of the bizarre aspect and the crazy stuff writing that Araki puts itself in the characters. Then we go to Part 3, where I do think that the reader gets an overall perspective of what to expect from JoJo, compared to the normal shonen series of its time, but even today this is crazy aesthetic and bizarreness is what JoJo is known for and what makes it unique. As great as Hunter x Hunter is, there are many mangas after it that are inspired by it, and some of the elements they get from it do it right, while as for the manga that are inspired by JoJo, mostly use its concepts because they are good, but also when they try to be bizarre as Araki is pretty much impossible. When the viewer creates this level of expectation with JoJo is where JoJo starts messing with your head. Part 3's episodic nature creates this level of mystery between each encounter that the Crusaders have, and this will end up being a bizarre ride. Some of them more bizarre, some of them less bizarre, but every single minor villain we get through it to get to the big baddie of the series in Part 3, it feels a bizarre ride with some bizarre friends and a bizarre trip to Egypt. Part 4 is when Araki starts to limit the scale of JoJo as a series. Instead of being a fight for the planet, it can be something as a fight for one town. And simple as that is why Part 4 has a lot of potential, because we explore throughout that one town and that one town only. Throughout it we build a theme that later on gets challenged by the main villain of the part. Every single encounter we have in Part 4 feels like it's a big encounter in terms of weight, but at the same time there are only few of them that actually live up to the expectation that the weight we put on them, setting up to make fights way more bizarre than before and way more entertaining than in Part 3. From Rohan's taste of an insect for simply experience to Kira using a dead cut ham to eat something, everything feels JoJo, just borderline more bizarre than usually we see on JoJo. Part 5 is where I realized something huge about JoJo, something that changed my general perspective on the series. Araki for JoJo is not just creating something out of nothing, he's pulling up himself as a person in JoJo, and all of his inspirations alongside with all of his interests are in JoJo as well. Now, don't get me wrong, we all know that most of the times Araki is just going along with the story, but every part has numerous things that Araki has seen or experienced on other aspects of his life, like work, music, movies, or other mangas that Araki likes, put up together in a bizarre ride is what JoJo's Bizarre Adventures is. As for part 5, take The Godfather, and The Goodfellas, and Scarface, and pretty much every mafia movie ever before 1990s, plus 90s gangster rap style, and put it into one series that with a bizarre plot twist and crazy imagination, and you get JoJo's Bizarre Adventures Part 5 Vento Arreo. As per part 6, we have prison, and Jolene masturbating problems, and a lot of more insider stuff that make it bizarre. While reading Stone Ocean, I get introduced to something more than just bizarreness and what is to be too bizarre. As X4 said in his video, sometimes stuff like stats take more time to get explained than to get defeated itself. That is because Araki keeps trying to make them too bizarre, and that can be a problem for JoJo, but at this point Araki kinda changes that. So we have Araki over here saying that he wants to end his series, and he kinda did. Reset JoJo, he said, and yes, he did. After that, we go to JoJo Part 7, Steel Ball Run. Arguably the best JoJo part still is JoJo, and it's still bizarre, but I have nothing to go too far to explain why it's the next step of bizarreness, but compared to normal manga, it's still way more bizarre. In part 7, the story and the characters are more important than anything, so you have to take that into account as well. For JoJo Part 7, it's more about the overall journey of something more than them itself. So everything bizarre that happens, it has limits to it. It's nothing like hitting new highs for JoJo bizarreness, but it's still JoJo. I promise you will see JoJo, and a lot more JoJo than usual because it's a reset and you have characters coming back, and if you haven't read part 7 you will love it, I promise. It's probably gonna be your favorite part, or at least one of them. Top 3, or top 1 if you mean. For part 8, I think it's way too bizarre even compared to JoJo standards. Like, have you seen the main character? He has 4 balls. Please read JoJolion. It's actually really amazing. I was chilling on Discord and randomly with my friend we decided to watch the first episode of the 90s JoJo Part 3 OVA and the last episode of it as well. I can confirm that it was not as bad as you hear people say it. I will honestly say there are some deep aspects about it that it got better than the David production anime from the manga. It's a okay adaptation at best, but the same, it was wasted because it just doesn't feel like JoJo. For what I've seen, it misses something really important JoJo related, and that is the heart. Maybe it's the animation or some random aspect that it just doesn't make it JoJo. The writing is still bizarre even though they changed some stuff from the manga, and the final battle is more of a Dragon Ball final battle than JoJo final battle. Not gonna lie, it was a fun experience seeing something like that, but it just misses the heart of JoJo. It's meant to show it's a JoJo adaptation and it really is different from that, but it's still fun. You're gonna laugh a lot, I promise.
How is he not there?
I'm confused. Who's the vampire here? Is Jotaro the vampire or Theo now?
This never happens in the manga and anime, so.
Or that's Jonas' mom. And from here we go to talk about the final one, and that being the adaptation from David Pro. People who work there must have been big fans of JoJo themselves, because everything was next level. I am sure that every single part of JoJo was considered very good, but also JoJo was considered as some of the mangas that just don't work in anime form, and they got them proved wrong, because the JoJo adaptation anime is not a perfect adaptation because there is no such thing as a perfect adaptation, but it worked in a big way to be considered as the closest thing to a perfect adaptation adaptation per JoJo. Parts. The JoJo adaptation from David Pro not only rebrought the old fans to JoJo but also brought tons of new fans not only in Japan but all over the world, especially in the West. As an adaptation of the anime, getting bizarre to the levels that JoJo gets and getting very few things that JoJo gets, for example some of the most iconic moments that work better in the anime form than the manga form, and I will argue that can be proven that are so bizarre that can be taken in out of context forms or even in different forms that only the community does it. Because believe me, there are literally stuff in JoJo that everything can happen and they can take it out of context manga wise and anime wise. So that's why David Pro kinda did a lot and brought something more to community into JoJo than the manga did at the time. So it was one of the best things to happen to JoJo since the manga itself. And I can argue that the first 3 parts of JoJo, Araki was still finding himself. From part 4 everything gets great and every part and more Araki is hitting new highs. But what makes every single part special is because they are JoJo parts. Just the JoJo word and the bizarreness behind it is what makes it special. Now, getting influenced by many mangas, movies, music, adding that special trait that makes everything so much better is what JoJo is. Now, JoJo is a story of family, friendship, love, duality, morality, character complexity, character journey, story progression, self-appreciation, passion, and most importantly, bizarreness. That is why JoJo being bizarre works perfectly. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. This was an interesting concept to me to make because I'm a huge fan of talking about individual aspects of the series, especially for something as JoJo, which I pretty much talk about it every day on like social media. I really encourage you to subscribe to the channel with notifications on because YouTube is really picky with notifications nowadays. I really appreciate you guys watching my videos and all the support I get. As small or as big as it can be, it means a lot to me as a YouTuber and as a content creator. It's literally everything I can hope for and everything I can take from all of this time that I spent making a video. Like I spent all of my day editing, researching, and seeing a lot of comments and a lot of likes supporting me. It means the world to me. So thank you for being with me through this amazing journey. Maybe not as amazing as JoJo's Bizarre Adventures journey, but we're talking about an amazing journey, so my journey automatically is amazing as well. Also make sure to follow me on Twitter. While your boy adinplore is signing out. Until my next video, have a nice one guys.